Johnny Carson's role in exposing the hidden sides of Golden Age Hollywood guests is one of the most intriguing aspects of his legendary career because while he was celebrated as the king of late night for his wit, charisma, and effortless ability to make an audience laugh, he was also a sharp observer who often saw through the polished personas of the stars who sat across from him. During the golden age of Hollywood, celebrities were carefully packaged by studios, their flaws tucked away behind glossy magazine spreads and rehearsed interviews. Carson, however, had a unique platform where stars were expected to be spontaneous, entertaining, and personable in front of a live audience. It was on this stage, under the hot studio lights and with millions watching, that cracks in their glamorous veneers could sometimes begin to show, and Carson had the skill to draw those moments out in ways that felt natural yet revealing. His interviews weren't just light banter. They often became subtle tests of authenticity where arrogance, cruelty, or hypocrisy could slip through without warning. Carson possessed a sharp intelligence masked by his comedic timing, which gave him an advantage in dealing with difficult or egotistical guests. He knew when a star was trying too hard to maintain their image, and he could undercut them with a single well-placed joke or ironic comment. While his viewers laughed, the celebrity sitting across from him often found themselves exposed in ways they hadn't anticipated. This wasn't always malicious on Carson's part but rather a reflection of his refusal to let anyone dominate his stage without earning it. For audiences at home, it became thrilling to watch as someone who had been idealized for years suddenly revealed their arrogance, temper, or inability to connect with ordinary people. In these moments, Carson became more than just a talk show host. He became a mirror reflecting the darker realities of stardom back to the very public who had worshipped these figures for so long. One of the most significant elements of Carson's approach was how understated it often was. Unlike some modern hosts who thrive on confrontation, Carson's strength lay in his ability to keep the atmosphere light even while guiding the conversation into uncomfortable territory. He didn't need to directly call someone out as being unpleasant or arrogant. Instead, he would ask a seemingly innocent question that forced the guest to reveal their own behavior. When stars became defensive, dismissive, or visibly irritated, it was their own reactions that painted them in a negative light. Carson provided the stage, the audience, and the pressure, but it was the celebrities themselves who exposed their true nature. This delicate balancing act meant that viewers trusted Carson to be authentic and fair while simultaneously enjoying the drama of seeing a glamorous figure stumble. Behind the scenes, Carson was known to have strong opinions about certain guests, and while he rarely made his personal feelings obvious on air, his mannerisms and tone could shift when interviewing someone he found disagreeable. Audiences who watched closely often sensed this shift, reading between the lines of his humor to detect his real thoughts. The brilliance of Carson's craft lay in the fact that he didn't have to outright condemn a guest. Instead, he let silence, timing, and his impeccable delivery create an environment where truth had a way of leaking out. For instance, if a celebrity made a remark that was condescending or dismissive, Carson's raised eyebrow or dry quip could highlight the arrogance in a way that audiences never forgot. Those subtle moments contributed to a growing understanding that many Golden Age stars were not the flawless icons their studios wanted the world to believe. Carson's influence also rested in the cultural context of the time. During the Golden Age, television was still shaping public perceptions, and The Tonight Show became a national ritual. When a celebrity appeared on Carson's stage, it was not just another interview, it was an event that could define their image for years. This meant that any misstep, any display of arrogance, cruelty, or indifference, was amplified far beyond the studio walls. Carson had the power to humanize or to reveal, and he wielded that power with remarkable subtlety. Some stars walked away beloved because he highlighted their charm and relatability, while others left audiences questioning whether the glamour they had admired was only an act. In this way, Carson's role in exposing hidden sides wasn't about destroying reputations but about showing the public the full picture, including the flaws that had long been hidden from view. What made these exposures so powerful was that they happened live, in real time, with no script to protect the guest. Unlike pre-planned press appearances or magazine features, Carson's interviews demanded spontaneity. This spontaneity was a double-edged sword. For genuine and likable stars, it gave them an opportunity to connect with audiences in a way that deepened their popularity. For others who relied heavily on their curated image, it became a trap, as their inability to maintain their act under Carson's gaze revealed more than they intended. Carson understood this dynamic and used it to test the authenticity of the people who sat before him. His casual demeanor made it seem like a conversation between friends, but in reality, it was one of the most high-stakes stages in entertainment, where reputations could be bolstered or quietly dismantled. Over the years, the stories of the 9 Golden Age guests who revealed their darker sides on Carson's stage have become cautionary tales about the nature of fame. These weren't anonymous actors struggling in obscurity but household names whose reputations carried enormous weight. To see them falter on national television was shocking, yet it also resonated with audiences who were beginning to question the gap between the Hollywood dream and reality. Carson became the unlikely figure who provided that window, not through scandal-driven exposés but through the organic unfolding of conversations that let the truth slip through. This role as a cultural gatekeeper made him an even more significant figure in television history, because he didn't just entertain, he shaped how millions of Americans perceived the very people they had idolized for years. The idea that Johnny Carson revealed the hidden sides of his guests also underscores the duality of his role as both entertainer and subtle investigator. He wasn't a journalist in the traditional sense, yet his ability to coax out the truth rivaled any reporter's interview skills. He wasn't a critic, yet his timing and wit could dismantle a guest's façade with more impact than a harsh review ever could. Carson stood at the intersection of comedy and truth, and through his platform, he revealed that even the brightest stars of the Golden Age could harbor flaws that made them far less admirable once the curtain was pulled back. This dynamic ensured that Carson's legacy was not only about the laughter he generated but also about the truths he illuminated in a world that preferred illusion over reality. The contrast between public image and private behavior of these 9 stars highlights one of the most fascinating aspects of Hollywood's Golden Age. A period when the film industry thrived on carefully controlled illusions designed to captivate audiences. Movie studios functioned like factories, manufacturing not only films but also the personas of the actors and actresses who starred in them. Every detail of a star's life, from their fashion choices to their social activities, was meticulously managed to ensure they embodied an idealized version of glamour, charm, and sophistication. Fans were encouraged to see these individuals not as ordinary people with flaws but as larger-than-life figures who represented beauty, elegance, and charisma at its peak. Yet behind this polished façade, many of these stars harbored traits that were far from admirable. On Johnny Carson's stage, the cracks in these carefully crafted images often began to appear, revealing arrogance, cruelty, or dismissiveness that starkly contradicted the personas audiences adored. One of the most striking elements of this contrast lies in how powerfully the entertainment industry shielded its stars. Studios were known to cover up scandals, silence gossip, and ensure that even the worst behavior never reached the public eye. Audiences at the time did not have the same access to celebrities that exists today with social media and paparazzi. Most of what they knew came from studio-approved interviews or promotional appearances. As a result, fans believed wholeheartedly in the images they were sold. When a celebrity appeared charming and graceful on screen, people assumed this was who they truly were. But the reality, as Carson's interviews sometimes exposed, was often far more complicated. Stars who smiled warmly on screen could be cold and dismissive when the cameras stopped rolling, and those who seemed humble in press releases could reveal egos too large to hide under the spotlight of a live interview. Carson's interview served as an unexpected stage for these contradictions to surface because his format relied heavily on authenticity. Unlike the scripted scenes of a movie, Carson's show was unscripted, unfiltered, and fast-moving, which meant stars had to rely on their own personalities rather than a character crafted by screenwriters. For celebrities accustomed to hiding behind a role, this sudden exposure could be disarming. Some rose to the challenge and revealed genuine warmth or humor, while others faltered and revealed traits that audiences were never meant to see. This created a dramatic tension between who these individuals were supposed to be and who they actually were, a tension that often played out before millions of viewers in ways that could not be edited or erased. The contrast between public and private selves was also deeply tied to the notion of power in Hollywood. Many Golden Age stars were treated as untouchable figures by those around them, shielded from criticism by managers, agents, and producers who relied on their success for financial gain. This environment allowed some to develop a sense of superiority, treating others poorly without consequence. When such behavior slipped out during an appearance on Carson's show, it was a shock to audiences who had believed these people to be gracious icons. A single dismissive remark, a sarcastic tone, or a refusal to laugh at Carson's jokes could reveal arrogance that audiences had never suspected. In those moments, the illusion crumbled, leaving viewers to reconcile the charming star they thought they knew with the flawed human being sitting under the studio lights. Another compelling aspect of this contrast is how it revealed the vulnerability of the Hollywood system itself. The Golden Age thrived on mystique, keeping stars distant and untouchable so that their images remained intact. But Carson's show was built on intimacy and relatability, bringing celebrities into people's homes in a more personal way. This clash of traditions created situations where the polished veneer of stardom could no longer withstand the pressure of authenticity. Audiences began to see that the people they had elevated to near mythical status were not always worthy of the admiration they received. This shift marked a turning point in entertainment culture, as viewers became more skeptical of celebrity personas and more interested in the truth behind the glamour. The exposure of these contradictions also illuminated broader cultural themes about human nature and the dangers of idolization. It demonstrated that no matter how carefully an image is managed, the reality of character eventually reveals itself. Fans who had once believed that their favorite stars embodied perfection were forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that these individuals could be selfish, vain, or unkind. This realization did not necessarily diminish the art they created on screen, but it did change the way people thought about fame. The pedestal on which Golden Age stars had been placed began to feel less stable, and Carson's stage became one of the first platforms where that instability was openly visible. Carson's skill in revealing this contrast lay in his ability to remain approachable and disarming while still applying pressure through humor, timing, and conversation. His questions often seemed casual, but they had a way of drawing out unguarded responses. When a celebrity reacted with warmth, the moment added depth to their public image, reinforcing their charm. But when a guest revealed irritation, condescension, or insincerity, the gap between their public persona and private behavior became glaring. This dynamic fascinated viewers because it reminded them that even the most celebrated figures could falter under scrutiny, and it gave them a sense of power in seeing through the façade. The 9 Golden Age stars who revealed darker sides during their time with Carson embodied this contrast in striking ways. Each had been celebrated for talent, beauty, or charisma, but when stripped of studio control and forced to engage spontaneously, their flaws became visible. Whether it was arrogance masked as confidence, cruelty disguised as humor, or entitlement hidden behind charm, their behavior contrasted so sharply with their public images that audiences could not help but notice. These moments were not just embarrassing slip-ups. They were cultural revelations that challenged the very foundation of celebrity worship and reminded viewers that fame often conceals as much as it reveals. This tension between public image and private reality has become a recurring theme in discussions of celebrity culture, but during Carson's era, it was groundbreaking to witness. The realization that stars could be deeply flawed people created a new kind of awareness among audiences, one that has only grown stronger in the decades since. The legacy of Carson's role in revealing these contrasts lies not only in the entertainment value of those moments but also in the broader cultural shift they signaled. They marked the beginning of a more critical approach to celebrity, a recognition that the carefully crafted images of Hollywood's golden age could not always hide the truth about the people behind them. The lasting impact of these revelations on television history and celebrity culture cannot be overstated because the moments when Johnny Carson subtly unveiled the darker sides of his golden age guests reshaped the way audiences perceive not only the stars themselves but the entire idea of fame. Before Carson's era, television often served as an extension of Hollywood's carefully crafted machinery, reinforcing myths about glamorous, untouchable icons whose lives seemed perfect from the outside. But when cracks began to show in real time on Carson's stage, it changed the relationship between celebrities and the public. For the first time, audiences could see both sides. The dazzling image that had been sold to them for years and the human flaws that emerged when the studio safety net was removed. This duality altered the foundation of celebrity culture, creating a more skeptical, questioning public who began to look beyond the glitter to the reality underneath. Carson's show provided a unique environment for this cultural shift because it was one of the most watched platforms in America. When a star appeared on The Tonight Show, the exposure was immense, and their behavior was dissected not only in living rooms but also in the media coverage that followed. When a guest came across as arrogant, cruel, or insincere, it could linger in the public memory far longer than a flattering magazine spread or a successful movie role. In this way, Carson's stage functioned as both a spotlight and a magnifying glass, illuminating qualities that the studios preferred to hide. The enduring impact of this dynamic was that television audiences became more attuned to the idea that celebrities were not infallible. It created an appetite for authenticity, a desire to see stars as they truly were rather than as they were scripted to appear. This transformation also laid the groundwork for the evolution of talk shows as cultural arenas rather than just promotional platforms. Carson's style demonstrated that these conversations could reveal deeper truths, shaping public opinion in ways that extended beyond entertainment. Later hosts adopted similar techniques, using humor, timing, and unfiltered exchanges to peel back layers of celebrity personas. The influence can still be felt in contemporary talk shows where audiences expect to see more than rehearsed answers. They want vulnerability, spontaneity, and at times even controversy. The precedent set by Carson's subtle exposure of his guests forever altered the expectations of the genre, ensuring that interviews would never again be viewed solely as harmless banter but as opportunities for truth to slip through. The impact on celebrity culture was equally profound. For decades, Hollywood thrived on distance, cultivating a sense of mystique around its stars, but Carson's revelations helped dismantle that distance. By allowing audiences to see flaws in real time, he humanized celebrities, stripping away some of the untouchable aura that had defined the golden age. This shift had a dual effect. On one hand, it made stars seem more relatable, reminding viewers that even icons had weaknesses. On the other hand, it also made the public more critical, less willing to accept the illusions presented to them without question. This balance of relatability and scrutiny has become a defining feature of modern celebrity culture, where stars are expected to share personal truths while also being held accountable when their private behavior contradicts their public image. Another lasting effect was the way these moments of exposure influenced the media industry as a whole. The press began to pay closer attention to discrepancies between how stars presented themselves and how they behaved in unscripted contexts. Stories about on-air tensions or awkward exchanges with Carson often circulated in newspapers and magazines, adding to the intrigue. Over time, this appetite for uncovering the real side of celebrities grew into a dominant force in journalism, eventually leading to the rise of tabloids, paparazzi, and later online celebrity coverage. While Carson himself never pursued scandal for its own sake, the space he created for truth to emerge planted the seeds for a broader cultural obsession with authenticity and exposure that continues to this day. The revelations also had personal consequences for the stars involved. For some, the cracks in their public image never fully healed, as audiences remembered the arrogance or cruelty they displayed more vividly than their screen performances. For others, the exposure provided an opportunity for reinvention, forcing them to confront their flaws and adjust their behavior in the public eye. In both cases, Carson's role in bringing these hidden traits to light demonstrated the power of television not just to entertain but to shape reputations and influence careers. The impact was not limited to the 9 stars he exposed but extended to the entire entertainment industry, sending a message that no amount of studio control could completely shield a celebrity from the truth. On a larger cultural level, these moments represented a turning point in how society understood fame itself. The golden age of Hollywood had sold the idea that stardom was synonymous with perfection, but Carson's revelations showed that behind every glamorous smile could lie insecurity, ego, or cruelty. This realization fundamentally changed the cultural contract between stars and audiences. Fame was no longer about blind adoration but about a complex mix of admiration, curiosity, and skepticism. Fans began to expect transparency, and when they didn't get it, they became adept at searching for the cracks themselves. This shift paved the way for a celebrity culture defined not only by adulation but by constant scrutiny and the demand for authenticity. The legacy of Carson's revelations also extends into modern entertainment, where reality television, social media, and live interviews all carry echoes of the dynamics he pioneered. The fascination with watching public figures reveal their true selves under pressure remains as strong as ever, whether it plays out in viral talk show clips, social media controversies, or unscripted television dramas. Carson may not have set out to revolutionize celebrity culture, but the way he allowed truth to emerge on his stage created ripple effects that continue to shape the way audiences consume fame. In this sense, his role was not only that of a late-night entertainer but of a cultural architect who helped dismantle the illusions of Hollywood's golden age and ushered in a new era of authenticity, accountability, and constant public scrutiny. The lasting impact, therefore, is not confined to the memories of those specific interviews but to the broader shift they represented. Carson helped reveal that celebrities could not hide forever behind studio-crafted images, and that television, with its immediacy and intimacy, had the power to show audiences something closer to reality. The 9 guests who exposed their darker sides on his stage became symbols of this larger truth, that fame is fragile, that images can be shattered, and that audiences will never again be satisfied with illusions alone.